I didn't tell Oliver in advance. I accepted the school's invitation on my own and showed up at the university event he was attending. But at the venue, I saw his students crowded around a girl, calling her Mrs. Professor, and he stood there smiling gently at her, his eyes full of affection. But I am his wife. Chapter 1. Oliver's school was hosting a faculty family event. They called me for the first time. I hadn't been to his school in a long time, thinking I might as well go. I pushed aside some work and said yes. Oliver worked at a prestigious university in our city, a chemistry professor. When I arrived at the university gate, I gave him a call. He didn't pick up, so I followed the address they'd texted me. The event was held in a cherry blossom garden, normally closed to the public. As I approached, I spotted Oliver walking quickly ahead of me. He looked happy and hurried. He didn't notice me at all. I picked up my pace to follow him. Seconds later, I heard teasing voices. Professor! Mrs. Professor's already here. What took you so long? Did you get lost? Professor? She almost thought she was at the wrong place. Seriously, Professor Xia. You're such a bad husband. Leaving your wife all alone here to wait. I followed Oliver into the garden, listening to the students shout and joke. But I just arrived, and I am his wife. So who were they talking about? Chapter 2. Following their gaze. I saw her, in the middle of the crowd, flour dusted across her face, smiling softly. Eyes fixed on Oliver. Anna. Oh, Oliver's foster sister. Someone I didn't even know existed. Until after we got married. His mother sent her abroad years ago. So why was she back? And how had she become Mrs. Professor to everyone? I was confused. Maybe they had her mistaken for someone else? But then a few bold students called out, Professor, come sit with her and make snacks. They pulled him to her side. He sat down, smiling. I walked closer. But a female teacher stopped me. Excuse me, which professor's family are you with? I looked at her, then at Oliver. At that moment, he finally saw me. His expression changed in an instant. The soft affection he'd just shown Anna vanished, replaced by panic, then annoyance. Anna turned too. Her smile dropped. She bolted upright. Aw, sorry, I have to go. Something came up. She didn't wait, grabbed her bag, and ran out, nearly bumping into me. Everyone stood frozen, staring at Oliver. Professor, what happened to Mrs. Professor? He forced a smile. Don't worry about it. She probably had something urgent. The female teacher turned back to me. So, which professor's family are you with? I looked at Oliver. He rushed over. Sorry, she's with me, she's family. Oh, is she your sister? The teacher asked. Oliver hesitated, then gave a guilty nod. Why yeah, she's my sister. Then he grabbed my arm, trying to lead me away. Why are you here? I yanked my arm free. What? I'm not allowed to come today? No, it's just, you should have told me in advance. I held up my phone. I called several times. You didn't answer. Oliver froze, then slowly pulled out his phone. I looked at him quietly, not wanting to say a single word. Chapter 3. Just then, a teacher rushed in and said to Oliver, Professor, I just saw your wife run out in tears. She fell near the artificial lake and it looked serious. You'd better go check on her. Clatter. Oliver's phone fell to the ground. Sabrina, Anna's not well mentally. Wait for me. I'll come back and explain everything. He grabbed his phone and ran out in a panic. The teacher in charge of the event looked at me, awkward and unsure. Would you like to come join the group? I shook my head. No, I've got something else to do. I'll leave now. Then I looked at her and added, by the way, I'm not Oliver's sister. I'm his wife. And with that, I turned and left, without a second glance. Chapter 4. After leaving the event, I headed toward the artificial lake. From a distance, I saw Anna sitting on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably in Oliver's arms. Brother, why? Why did you marry her and not me? What does she have that I don't? My steps halted. I stared at her, stunned. Oliver had his back to me, gently patting her shoulder. His voice soft and full of helplessness. Anna, stop it. It's not what you think. Anna suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with hatred as she glared at me. So, what is this? Oliver, don't you owe me an explanation? Hearing my voice, Oliver spun around. Sabrina, why are you here? Why? Am I not supposed to be? I tried to keep my voice calm, but the tremble at the end betrayed my emotions. Can you tell me what's going on? Why are you letting her pretend to be your wife, in front of your colleagues? Anna sobbed louder, burying her face into Oliver's chest, like I was the villain in this story. Sabrina, calm down. It's not what it looks like. Anna's just my sister. She's always depended on me. Her thinking is a little extreme. I don't want to be your sister. Oliver, I don't want to be your sister. Anna's emotions exploded. She cried and shouted, clinging to him. Oliver kept patting her back. Anna, don't make a scene. Please, stop. Anna looked up at him with teary eyes. You don't love her, right? Tell her. You only married her because she was suitable. You never loved her, did you? Smack. Oliver slapped Anna across the face, but the tremble in his hand exposed the panic in his heart. Chapter 5. Anna, what are you saying? Stop talking nonsense. Oliver scolded her, but Anna let out a cold laugh, then suddenly jumped up and shoved me hard. I had no time to react. I fell backward, my arm slamming against a sharp stone. Blood began to flow slowly down my arm, a piercing pain shooting through me. Just then, a few teachers came running over. Before anyone could react, Anna suddenly began screaming and crying, pointing at me furiously. Homewrecker, you shameless mistress destroying others' love. Then, her emotions spiraled out of control. Tears poured from her eyes. She clutched her throat, gasping for air as if she couldn't breathe. Anna, what's wrong? Don't scare your brother. Oliver didn't spare me a glance. He rushed forward and held Anna tightly. Everyone around looked stunned. Before anyone could act, Anna suddenly shoved Oliver away and threw herself into the artificial lake with a splash. Chapter 6. Anna! Oliver cried out, and without hesitation, jumped into the water after her. My mind went blank, but my whole body ached. Quick! Someone help! Teachers on the shore panicked, calling security and first aid. Someone came to help me up and tend to my wound, but I just stared at the lake, my heart a mess of emotions. Soon, Oliver dragged Anna out of the water. She was trembling and coughing nonstop, completely soaked himself. Oliver anxiously checked on her, his eyes full of worry and concern. Sorry, I have to take her to the hospital first. He picked Anna up and rushed off, leaving me standing alone by the lake, surrounded by whispers and curious stares. Chapter 7. Later, I declined the teacher's kind offer and went to the hospital alone to get treated. Of course, I wasn't surprised to run into Oliver again, soaked, disheveled, completely worn out. Doctor, how is she? Is she okay? He was holding a nurse's hand, anxiously asking about Anna, who lay on the hospital bed. The nurse reassured him. She's fine, just a bit shaken. Oliver let out a breath of relief, but when he turned around, he saw me. He slowly walked over. Sabrina, I'm sorry. Anna had a sudden episode. I had to take care of her. And what about me? I looked at him. She pushed me to the ground and hurt me. And you just left me there? I'm sorry, Sabrina. Anna's ill. She lost control. I didn't expect it either. So that's it? You let her pretend to be your wife, call me a homewrecker, and then leave me behind? My voice rose uncontrollably, but I was trembling all over. Oliver frowned. Sabrina, don't be so aggressive. Anna's had a tough life. She's unstable. I can't just ignore her. And me? I'm your wife. Do my feelings not matter to you? I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears streamed down my face. Sabrina, Suddenly, his phone rang. He glanced at it, and his face darkened. He hesitated, but answered, "Hello, Mom." Whatever was said made his expression even more tense. Then came a sharp reply, "Mom, can you stop interfering?" He hung up angrily. "Sorry, Sabrina, I have to deal with something. Can you just go home for now? I'll explain everything later." "Fine." I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I had something more important to do. He visibly relaxed. "Sabrina, thank you for understanding. Let's talk tonight at home." And with that, he turned and walked back toward Anna, without even looking back. Chapter 8. After getting my wound treated, I returned home alone. To my surprise, my mother-in-law was already there. The table was full of local specialties. Half were my favorites, half were Oliver's. It was her who introduced us, so she had always treated me well. "Oh, Sabrina, you're back." She peeked her head out of the kitchen when she heard the door. "Where's Oliver? Why didn't he come home with you?" I wasn't sure if she knew about the hospital, so I answered honestly, "Oliver is still at the hospital. He's with Anna." Crash. The dish in her hand shattered on the floor. That disgraceful child. Her hands trembled, and she mumbled to herself, "Sorry." I dropped it. "I'll clean it up." She quickly regained her composure and squatted down to clean up, but she was clearly distracted. She cut her finger on the shards. "Mom, let me do it." I grabbed a broom from the bathroom. No, I got it. "You're still injured." She rushed ahead of me to the bathroom to get the broom herself. When she came out, she asked, "Look at me being so careless." "Sabrina, how did you hurt your arm?" I didn't hide it. I told her everything, what happened at the school and at the hospital. Her hands shook, but she forced herself to remain calm. "That disgraceful boy. When he gets back, I'll give him a good scolding." I nodded and went back to my room. Chapter 9. After a while, I heard her yelling on the phone in the kitchen. She had poor hearing and used an old-style phone with the volume turned up high, even with the bedroom door closed. I heard her clearly. "Is it that little vixen Anna again? Didn't you cut ties with her years ago? What's going on now?" Oliver, on the other end, sounded annoyed. "Mom, can you stop? Anna just got back from overseas. Something happened, and now she's in the hospital." I knew it was her. Her voice grew sharper. "A whore raised by another whore. Always scheming, clinging to you since childhood. Now she's back. Who knows what kind of drama she's going to stir up. You already have a wife. The one who walked into this house with dignity." "Mom, can you just stop?" Oliver snapped. "Why can't you just let her go after all these years?" "Let her go? And who's going to let me go?" She screamed. "Your father betrayed me. Now you're betraying your wife. You're just like him, two peas in a pod. Listen to me. Come home right now, or I swear, I won't let Anna off the hook." "Mom, Anna's mentally unstable. She literally jumped into a lake today. I can't just leave her." "Jumped into a lake?" She scoffed coldly. "Then why did she shove Sabrina first?" "She's faking it, clearly. And you. The second she acts fragile, you panic, leaving your wife behind like nothing happened. Do you hear yourself?" "Mom, can you just not make this worse?" Oliver's voice was full of irritation. "This is between me and Sabrina. Stay out of it." And with that, he hung up, ignoring his mother's shouting on the other end. Chapter 10. Shortly after, I received a call from Oliver. He sounded exhausted. "Sabrina, I'm really tired right now. Please don't drag my mom into our problems anymore. Let's talk when I get home, okay? Stop pushing me." "I'm pushing you?" I gave a bitter laugh. "Have you asked how I'm doing even once since this all happened? Do you even care about this home? About me?" Silence. After a long pause, Oliver finally said in a low voice, "If you feel this wronged, then let's get divorced." It was the first time he'd ever said that, but in his tone, I heard certainty and determination. So I responded, "Fine, Monday. Let's register first. We can deal with the rest during the 30-day cooling-off period." Silence again. Only after a long pause did he finally say, "Okay." Then he hung up. Chapter 11. My mother-in-law placed the local delicacies in the fridge, then made soup for me and called me out to drink it. Since the phone call with Oliver, she had seemed distracted, like she already foresaw what was coming. While I quietly sipped the soup, she said, "Sabrina, promise me you'll stay with Oliver and try to live well together." I took a slow sip and replied, "Thanks, Mom. The soup is delicious, but living life isn't like drinking soup. It takes more than one person with a spoon." She understood what I meant and stopped trying to persuade me. After a long sigh, she murmured, "In the end, it's Oliver who's lost his way." Then she began to ramble a bit, and eventually brought up something from the past. A tangled story about Oliver's father, Anna's mother, and herself. When she finished, I stood there, frozen in shock. Chapter 12. It turned out, when Anna was 13, her gambling-addicted father died in a car crash, and her mother, Roxana, went missing because Roxana had been childhood sweethearts with Oliver's father. He took the orphaned Anna into their home. Out of sympathy, my mother-in-law agreed to raise Anna as her own daughter. At the time, 15-year-old Oliver was young and full of energy. He treated Anna like a real little sister and cared for her with enthusiasm. But when Anna turned 18, everything changed. Roxana, who had vanished for years, suddenly returned from abroad. Not only that, she resumed her affair with Oliver's father. It was only then that my mother-in-law realized Roxana hadn't gone missing. Oliver's father had secretly sent her abroad to avoid her late husband's gambling debts. For years, the two had kept in touch privately. Every year, Oliver's father would claim he was traveling for work. But in fact, he was meeting Roxana overseas. The truth nearly destroyed my mother-in-law. She fell seriously ill from the shock. When she recovered, she caused a huge scene and demanded divorce, even taking Oliver's father to court over property division. As for Anna, she wasn't driven away. She left with her mother the moment she returned from abroad. Chapter 13. As the saying goes, karma always comes around. Oliver's father, blinded by love for Roxana, was determined to get divorced. But during the divorce proceedings, while hiding out with Roxana in an apartment, a gas explosion took both their lives. After their deaths, Anna had nowhere to go. She came back and begged my mother-in-law to take her in, only to be kicked out. Unwilling to give up, she latched onto Oliver. She openly confessed her feelings, saying she'd fallen for him after spending so many years by his side. Even though Oliver rejected her firmly, she continued showing up by accident, constantly inserting herself into his life. Eventually, Oliver lost his mind. Behind his mother's back, he secretly gave Anna financial support, completely disregarding his mother's feelings. Only when his mother gave him an ultimatum, "If you choose Anna, forget you have a mother," did Oliver finally relent and send Anna overseas. But now, Anna had returned again. Hearing all this, I was overwhelmed by disbelief. These twisted, outrageous stories were even more absurd than I'd imagined. Chapter 14. After she finished, my mother-in-law sat on the couch, hands folded over her knees, her voice shaky and full of guilt. "Child, I owe you an apology. These years, I've kept all this inside. It's weighed on me like a stone. I thought things would eventually get better, so I just kept it all hidden." She paused, her eyes brimming with tears. "At first, I really did want Oliver and Anna to cut ties completely. But that girl, she's like a ghost that won't leave. No matter what, she clings to Oliver. Before I met you, I truly believed Oliver and Anna had no chance. That's why I encouraged you two to be together. I never imagined things would end up like this. I'm sorry, Sabrina. It's all my fault. If I had known, I never would have dragged you into this mess." Hearing those words, I felt the world spinning. My body swayed involuntarily. Chapter 15. I met Oliver in a hospital. My parents divorced and remarried early on, so I was raised by my grandmother. When she fell ill, I took time off to care for her. At the time, Oliver's mother happened to be in the same ward. I first saw Oliver on a weekend. He was dressed simply in a white shirt and slacks, with black-rimmed glasses perched on his nose. Tall, refined, with a quiet, intellectual air. He entered the room, gently greeted his mother, and then nodded politely to me. Hello, thank you for taking care of my mom these days. His low, warm voice and gentle demeanor instantly drew me in. Later on, I grew closer to his mother. She often praised my attentiveness in caring for my grandma. One day, she grabbed my hand and asked, "Young lady, do you have a boyfriend?" I blushed and shook my head. Her eyes lit up instantly. "My son, Oliver, you've seen him. He's a university professor, very stable. What do you think? Should I introduce you?" I felt a flutter in my chest, half nervous, half excited. I already had a bit of a crush on Oliver, and after learning he was a professor, that admiration only deepened. After all, I wasn't a great student, barely made it to university, bounced between jobs, and eventually opened a small flower shop. Compared to him, I felt worlds apart, but Oliver's mother kindly played matchmaker. And slowly we began seeing more of each other. Every time we met, he was polite, too polite, always keeping a certain distance, almost cold. Even so, I was secretly happy. I treasured every chance we had to interact. Maybe he gave in to his mother. Maybe he thought marrying anyone would be the same. Either way, we got married. It was during the last year of the pandemic. Oliver said the university discouraged large gatherings. So we simply signed the papers and hosted a small dinner with close friends. Married life was calm, even dull. Oliver stayed as distant as ever. He insisted on keeping work and private life separate, never introducing me to his colleagues or students. But I never complained because I loved him. I did my best to take care of him and our home. Now that the illusion is shattered, I finally understand the truth of an old saying: the most loyal men are often butchers, the most heartless ones, scholars. Chapter 16. Thinking back on our married life, those moments I once thought were sweet and tender, now feel like nothing but mockery. I had believed that marrying Oliver was the greatest blessing of my life, but it turns out, it was a complete joke. All along, he probably just married me to appease his mother. He's so fake, so revolting. I don't know when my mother-in-law left the house. My mind was too clouded to think about anything. All I felt was this overwhelming nausea and fury rising in my chest. And when Oliver finally walked through the door, the moment I saw his face, I rushed to the bathroom and vomited. It was that disgusting, utterly repulsive. How could such a vile, shameless person exist? I clung to the toilet and threw up violently. And in that moment, I realized something very clearly. I won't give Oliver a peaceful goodbye. Never. Not in this lifetime. Chapter 17. By the time I managed to calm down and step out of the bathroom, Oliver was waiting outside, seemingly wanting to say something. That nauseating feeling came rushing back up my throat. I covered my mouth and ran right back into the bathroom. Oliver chased after me, misunderstanding completely. Are you pregnant?" I cut him off coldly. "Shut up. Get the hell out. If I am pregnant, I'll abort it immediately." Thankfully, my period came that day. Seems God took a little pity on me. I wasn't pregnant, just utterly sickened by Oliver. When I came back out, he looked grim. After a long pause, he said, "Don't say things just to hurt me. If you are pregnant, just keep the baby. I won't divorce you. Can you get lost?" Just the sight of you makes me want to throw up. That night, Oliver went back to the master bedroom. I went straight to the guest room and locked the door. The next morning, Oliver was in the kitchen making soup. When I walked out, he said, "Mom brought your favorite wild mushrooms yesterday, so I made soup with them. You should drink some." I didn't even want to speak to him. I got dressed as fast as I could and headed straight to a prestigious law firm. But after the consultation, I found out Oliver and I didn't really have much shared property, and I had no concrete evidence of his cheating. If I filed for divorce, I'd only get the bare minimum. It felt so unfair. 3 years of love and effort. I lost my trust in people, and my faith in love shattered. And yet he gets to walk away scot-free, while I'm left to self-destruct? I couldn't just be gracious. I couldn't part peacefully. That's not who I am. I'm the kind of person who holds grudges, who settles scores. Chapter 18. After leaving the law firm, I contacted a private investigator. Went to the hospital to get my injuries documented. Then headed to Oliver's university to ask the security guard for the surveillance footage of Anna pushing me. Then I went to the police. At the station, I saw Anna and, of course, Oliver beside her. Anna's eyes were red from crying. When she saw me, she cowered behind Oliver. I didn't care. I simply asked the officer to issue an administrative detention order against her. Oliver frowned. Sabrina, it was just a little argument. Do you really have to take it this far? I raised my bandaged arm. Right, because it didn't hurt you. You get to speak like it's no big deal. I handed over the injury report and the video footage. I won't accept a settlement. Officer, please proceed by the book. Anna burst into tears. Oliver, I didn't mean it. I was just too emotional at the time. Oliver patted her. It's okay. Don't be afraid. I'll take care of this. She leaned into his arms, glaring at me like I was the villain. The officer finished reviewing everything and said, based on the evidence, Anna did push the victim and caused injury. Under public order law, she will be administratively detained. Compensation may be negotiated. If not, the injured party can file a civil lawsuit. Upon hearing that she'd be detained, Anna panicked. She clung to Oliver, eyes full of fear. Oliver turned to me. Sabrina, can we talk privately? Let's deal with our issues between us. Don't punish Anna like this, okay? I shook my head. No. Chapter 19. Seeing that I was determined, Anna suddenly snapped and screamed at me. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Oliver and I would have been together by now. You're just the homewrecker here. I almost laughed. Me? The homewrecker? You inserted yourself into my marriage, and now you're flipping the story? You're the textbook definition of a shameless mistress. Remember, this is just the beginning. I will make sure both of you pay. Oliver looked like he wanted to say something. His face tense, but I beat him to it, coldly snapping, You disgusting bastard. You brought your so-called adoptive sister to a public school event and introduced her as your wife in front of everyone. Are you not sick in the head? What's next? Incest roleplay? Sabrina, what are you talking about? He was shaking with rage. Calling you beast in human clothes would be giving you too much credit. You only qualify for half the title. I turned back to the officer. Thank you, officer. I absolutely refuse to settle. I will not tolerate being assaulted by a mistress. The officer nodded. Understood. Later, Anna got 3 days of detention and was fined 500 yuan. It wasn't much, but it made me feel a hell of a lot better. Chapter 20. After leaving the police station, Oliver caught up to me. Sabrina, why are you doing this? If you don't want to get divorced, let's not divorce, okay? Can you stop making a scene? I stopped in my tracks, turned around, and slapped him hard across the face. Not get divorced? You want me to keep waking up every day just to puke from how disgusting you are? Without another word, I turned and walked away. That entire day, I was out gathering evidence. On Monday, I didn't go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with Oliver. I went straight to his university, and on the way there, I started a live stream. I may just be a florist, but I've been doing live streams on flower arranging and plant care for years. I have around 20 to 30K followers. Not a massive number, but enough to stir up trouble. I told everyone the full story about Oliver and Anna during the live stream. The viewers were furious and flooded in with support. As I told them I was heading to his university to confront him, people were cheering me on, eagerly waiting for updates. Very quickly, my stream exploded, hundreds of thousands tuned in live. Most were fully on my side. You go, sis. Expose that scumbag. Don't swallow your pain. If you keep tolerating it, you'll get ovarian cysts. There's only one word, fight. But a few were trying to be reasonable. Come on, girl. Just let it go. Don't make a scene in public. You'll lose face. Love problems shouldn't be aired like this. Save some dignity for both of you. A viewer quickly fired back. Where was his dignity when he brought his mistress to school and introduced her as his wife? Now he wants his real wife to give him face? Get out of here. The chat exploded into full-blown argument. Some comments got deleted. Of course, there were also a few kind, neutral voices. Whatever you decide. Sis, protect yourself first. Don't let your emotions ruin you. I typed back. Thank you all for the support. Chapter 21. When I arrived at Oliver's university, I went straight to his office building and confronted the dean at the academic office. You held a faculty event and didn't even verify who the teacher's family members were? You let a professor bring his mistress and introduce her as his wife? Was this your school's mistake, or is this your standard procedure? My voice was so loud that a bunch of students gathered around to watch. The dean tried to have someone throw me out. I raised my phone and shouted, "I'm live streaming. Try laying a finger on me and watch what happens." A female teacher came to calm me down. I recognized her. She was the same teacher who welcomed guests that day and later tried to take me to the hospital. With her mediation, I temporarily paused the outburst, but I made it clear, the school must give me an explanation. The dean had no way out and called Oliver. Face dark with anger, Oliver came rushing in moments later, panting and drenched in sweat, hair matted to his forehead, looking totally disheveled. When he saw me live streaming, his face froze with shock. He clearly never imagined I'd cause this big of a scene. He rushed forward and tried to grab my arm. "Sabrina, let's talk at home, okay? Please don't do this here." I yanked my arm away from his grip. "Why talk at home? Let's talk right here. You brought your adoptive sister to a faculty event. Had everyone call her Mrs. Professor, and told your colleagues I'm your sister? What's the meaning of this? If you wanted to play fake sibling romance, why didn't you say so sooner? Why drag me, an innocent girl, into your mess?" The live stream exploded. The comments section was lit up with curses and rage aimed at Oliver. Chapter 22. Just then, a comment popped up in the live stream. "I recognize him. He's a professor at our school. I saw him once holding hands with a girl on campus. When we called her Mrs. Professor, he didn't stop us. Turns out she wasn't even his wife. Now that I think about it, disgusting." That one comment ignited a flood of similar responses. Students watching the live stream on campus caught sight of the message. Originally just curious onlookers, now their stares turned into disgust and contempt. Whispers filled the air. "How can a teacher be like this? He has no ethics. Ugh. I used to enjoy his lectures. Can't believe I misjudged him." Oliver's face turned bright red at the rising murmurs. He reached out again, trying to grab me. "Sabrina, please, let's go home and talk. What do you gain from causing a scene here?" I slapped his hand away and looked straight into the livestream camera. "Everyone, look at him. He still wants to sweep this under the rug. Still trying to avoid responsibility. But I came here today for answers. The university must give me a proper explanation. This can't be brushed off." The dean standing nearby looked like his face was dipped in ink. He kept urging Oliver to settle things quickly. The female teacher tried to smooth things over again. "Let's all calm down. We can sit and talk things through. There's always a solution." But I was determined. Unless I get a satisfactory answer today, I am not letting this go. Oliver stood there, his face a mess of emotions, anger, shame, confusion. Chapter 23. Suddenly, Oliver clenched his fists. Veins bulged on his forehead. "Sabrina, all of this is revenge. You used to be kind and gentle. Now look at you, like a vengeful lunatic. You'll stoop to anything." I actually laughed, cold, bitter laughter. A lunatic? Revenge? Oliver, do you still not understand what you did wrong? It was your selfishness and greed that buried the kind person I used to be. Everything I'm doing now is simply to protect my dignity and my rights. What part of that is wrong? He opened his mouth but only managed to mumble. "Anna and there's nothing going on. She's just mentally unwell, and I was taking care of her." "Oh, you kissed her to comfort her, huh?" I pulled out several photos taken by the private investigator and slammed them onto the table. In them, Oliver was clearly kissing Anna passionately, one hand holding the back of her head. OMG, that's disgusting. I want to puke. Classic cheater. Deny, 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 until the receipts drop. Good thing our girl had the foresight to get evidence. Otherwise, he would have gaslit her into silence. As comments flooded in, someone must have reported the stream, and it got suspended. I calmly put away my phone and told Oliver, "Go get the divorce finalized. You're disgusting." Chapter 24. 2 months later, I finally got my divorce certificate. There was plenty of drama in between, but I don't want to talk about it. What matters is, I didn't walk away empty-handed. I ended up with more than I expected. Better deals on the house, the car, and financial compensation. As for Anna, after her time in detention, she calmed down a bit, still cussed me out daily. But at least she didn't dare touch me again. Oliver? The university asked him to resign. And his mother? She cut ties with him completely. She'd said before, "If you choose Anna, then don't come calling me your mom again." Now that he really chose Anna, she stayed true to her word and disowned him. Later I heard that Oliver and Anna had lots of fights. They broke up, then reconciled, then fell apart again. Oliver tried to get rid of her, but Anna got him drunk one night and got pregnant. They ended up getting married. No ceremony, no wedding party, just signed a piece of paper. That was the end of it. Chapter 25. Later on, I met my current husband, the cold-faced, sharp-tongued CEO who always asked me to deliver flowers upstairs. We started off on the wrong foot. Our relationship was a bit messy and dramatic, but I won't go into details. Anyway, he's now glued to me the second he gets off work. Sometimes we bicker like enemies. Sometimes he clings to me like a giant puppy. One day during a prenatal checkup, we ran into Oliver and Anna at the hospital. The once sharp and polished Oliver had been completely worn down by life. Now unkempt and miserable looking, Anna was jumping up and down, yelling at him over something. I heard Oliver snap, "If you hadn't drunk so much when you were pregnant, is it any surprise she ended up mentally challenged?" Anna screamed back, "And whose fault was that? You were the one still hung up on that B*TCH Sabrina. Don't think I didn't notice. After your divorce, you kept sneaking looks at her photos every time you got drunk. You called her name. Just admit it, you still love her, don't you?" Hearing that, my CEO husband beside me flared up instantly. This King ghost still won't leave us alone? He grabbed me protectively. "Don't go near them, bad luck." Just then, Anna spotted me. "Sabrina? UWH*re. What are you doing here?" Before I could say a word, my CEO snarled, "Say one more word about my wife, and I'll tear your mouth apart." Anna burst into tears and smacked Oliver. "Are you even a man? Your ex-wife's being insulted and you're just standing there? Do you have any spine left?" Oliver didn't respond. He just stared at me, at my husband, at my pregnant belly. Then, after a long pause, he simply said, "Congratulations," and walked away with his child in his arms. My husband grunted. Why'd he leave? I was gonna punch him at least once. I punched my husband instead. What? Trying to start trouble again? No, you're right here, I wouldn't dare. On the way home, I looked out the car window. Everything that had happened played through my mind like a movie. Then I remembered a quote. "If life hasn't killed you, then any time is the perfect time to start over." No relationship is worth losing yourself over. Always stay clear-headed. Always love yourself first. Always keep your passion alive.